Hey, what's up, liches? We're just a pair of dungeon masters from Dungeons & Dragons trying to learn Pathfinder. So today, we're gonna start a collection of videos on impressions about Pathfinder 2e classes.
First and foremost, what this video is not. This is not a deep dive into the mechanics of the Alchemist class, which is what we are talking about today. Rather, what we thought we would do is go over the flavor of the class, maybe touch on a few different mechanics, see how it works in play a little bit, give you a little taste, and by the time the video's over, you can figure out if the Alchemist is something that you're interested in playing in Pathfinder 2e.
We also have a few tips for new game masters who have alchemists in their party.
All right, the very first thing we want to look at is the flavoring, the themes of the Alchemist. When you pop open that core rulebook,
I feel that mad scientist vibes, right? Experimentations, especially experimentations on your party.
yeah, the two things that really pop out to me are the Mad Bomber, the dude that's just chucking bombs, chucking vials of acid into people's faces. And then I also think of some lunatic that's just like injecting themselves with God knows what to make them into a bigger, badder adventurer.
Yeah. I also think of like the poisoner, someone who's always crafting poisons.
Yeah, it's almost like this class seems like an NPC in every other fantasy role-playing game, right?
Yeah.
But in this case, you get to play them as a class. The Alchemist class really makes me think of like B horror or gothic horror. Two things that immediately came to my mind was Herbert West Reanimator from the Reanimator trilogy, and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, or even Dr. Frankenstein.
I also think of Dark Crystal and the Skeksis.
Yeah.
Specifically that scientist Skektek, who is working on like the perfect life essence formula to help the Skeksis live forever.
So if you're looking for inspiration from pop culture, video games, comic books, whatever, there is a lot of stuff to pull from.
Instead of going through the class page for page through the core rulebook, let's just put up a list of all the proficiencies that we get. Here are all the skill proficiencies, attack proficiencies, and saving throws that you're going to have as this class.
If you play an Alchemist, your number one stat that you want to be the highest out of everything, your main stat is going to be intelligence.
Again, this isn't really a deep dive. If you'd like to find more information, we have a link in the nether region below. Alchemist class features. The first thing we get, alchemy. Go figure. Alchemy gives you alchemical crafting for free, which will give you 4 formulas for your formula book. The next few class features deal with daily preparations. The first one is infused reagents. Every day during the Alchemist's preparations, they can make a number of infused reagents up to their level plus their intelligence modifier. These special infused reagents are going to be made for advanced alchemy and quick alchemy, which we'll get to very shortly. The infused reagents last really only 24 hours or until the next time you make preparations. They serve as the class's limited pool resource, kind of like spell slots do for a wizard in D&D.
The book sort of leaves this open, and I think this is done on purpose so that you can sort of role play where you get your infused reagents from. So maybe you have this weird rat carcass that has this little organ that you can take a syringe and you're just pulling out some sort of magical reagent, and it takes 24 hours for that to sort of refill once a day. Or maybe you're actually just drawing it out of your own blood.
Yeah, your own blood, maybe just popping pus out of pimples. Some renewable source of reagents and energy that your character has discovered. After making a bunch of infused reagents, we're going to be using those batches to create items. Advanced Alchemy is going to help us do that. Advanced Alchemy is going to let us create items with our infused reagents without needing to make crafting checks, without needing the downtime to create it, or any of the reagents, normal reagents that are used to craft that item. If you create an item with 1 batch of infused reagents, you get 2 of that item. Your Advanced Alchemy level is also going to tell you what kind of level items that you can create. It's always going to match your character level, so it's pretty easy to remember.
I like this, again, from a role-playing perspective. Yes, there is a lot of crafting that goes on in Pathfinder 2e, and this is sort of the feature that the Alchemists get that sort of makes you this like wonderkin that can just look at a bunch of different things, put them together, and boom, you got an elixir of life.
It's interesting because any class can really do this with the alchemical crafting feat, but the Alchemist just does this on crack.
Yes.
Right. They can just, their output of how many items they can craft is just through the roof. And then you get quick alchemy, which allows you to use infused reagents to create an item on the spot where you stand for like 1 turn in combat. So the quick alchemy is an action. It takes 1 action and you need your alchemist tools to do it. The only caveat though is that you can only create 1 of the items, whereas you could have created 2 during your preparation time. It's like any alchemist can be just like, I'm gonna make a pipe bomb! Like, now let's talk about your book of formulas. Your formula book starts with 2 formulas already in there. And then you've got an additional 4 from alchemical crafting. And then you get 2 more from your research field. We'll go over research field in a sec. There was an alchemical reaction there. These new formulas can be for any level of item that you can create. Don't forget that formulas can also be bought, found while you're adventuring, or they can be invented through the inventor feat. So yeah, level 1, you get 8 total formulas in your formula book. It's pretty cool. Let's jump into research fields for the alchemist. The research fields are kind of like subclasses. And the research field is going to give you signature items that you can use. These are specific items that you're going to have formulas for. You're going to have 2 formulas for the ones you could pick for each research field. And when you use preparation time to create these items, you can make a batch of 3 instead of 2 when you're using an infused reagent.
So in the core rulebook, you've got 3 of them. You've got the bomber, which again, it's going to let you do cooler things with your bombs and vials, things that are going to explode in people's faces.
You have more control about the area that explodes. If you have your party in front, then you're not going to hit all of them, right? Maybe just hit 1 single target.
It's almost like it's like sculpting a spell, right?
Yeah.
You can sculpt your splash damage a little bit.
Kind of.
Then you've got what? The field surgeon one.
Yes.
Chirurgeon.
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 Chirurgeon! Yeah, the chirurgeon is your battle medic, man. And you can use a lot of the crafting skills to do some medicine checks, or the proficiencies from the crafting you can use as prerequisites for anything that requires medicinal prerequisites for any feats you might come in the future. What's the last one?
The mutagenist.
Yeah.
Ooh, I like, this is the one that lets you manipulate the DNA, the cells of a person, and you change them up a little bit. You know, they swig around a potion, they drink it, they turn into a beast person.
Mr. DNA, where did you come from? From your blood. Yeah, whatever research field you choose, you're not locked into it. You can still do every other alchemical item on the board. It just so happens that you're a little bit better with some of these things. And the last part of building an alchemist is you're going to have an Alchemist Class feat. You can start off with 3 different alchemical class feats at first level. The first one is Alchemical Familiar, the Alchemical Savant, or the Farlobber. And every time you level up as the alchemist, you're going to gain 2 new common formulas to use with your formula book.
So we wanted to do something kind of cool with these class videos where we have a day in the life of the class. So we're going to look at the day in the life of the alchemist and see what you'd be doing playing this character class in Pathfinder. Stuff you might encounter, how you might deal with them, give you a little bit of that flavor, and see if the alchemist is for you or not.
So you dive into your pack, you crack your knuckles, and you pull out that alchemy set. You set it up, and you're ready to prep for the day. This class is all about the preparation.
Over coffee, tea, biscuits, porridge, you might want to talk with the other party members and figure out what your adventuring day might look like. Are you going to be diving in dungeons? Are you going to be talking to nobles? Are you going to be trying to do some subterfuge and trick some people? Find out what's going on that day, and then get your noodle rocking and rolling, whip out that alchemy set, and start making some alchemical items.
If you had to prep and it's kind of a coin toss what's going to happen for the day, you might make a couple healing elixirs, maybe some damaging bombs, maybe a few mutagens. But I would use maybe 6 of the infused reagents that we have. Saving those few infused reagents for the quick alchemy action is going to be perfect for improvising throughout your day.
Local wizard has you going grave robbing, so you head over to the local cemetery and you got to dig up some old guy's body. But as you're doing that, guess what? Some skeletons are already reanimated and ready to throw down and tussle with y'all. So Kamo, what do you get to do in combat as an alchemist? What are some of the ways you could be dealing with this?
Burn them with alchemical fire. Alchemical fire bombs. I could enhance my unarmed fighting, kind of go beast mode with the bestial mutagen and start clobbering them.
It's clobbering time.
You know, maybe we had a previous engagement, maybe the fighter is a little low on health, and toss him a few elixirs, heal him up. Maybe I prepped a few Tanglefoot bags, so I could, if we had some distance, kind of make that distance last by throwing Tanglefoot bags at them, slowing them down until they get to us.
So yeah, lots of fun and interesting and a variety of ways to deal with combat. You're not necessarily just chucking out damage, chucking out bombs that whole time, huh?
Tons more than mentioned here, definitely. All right, so we put the skellies back in the ground. Maybe later in the day, we have to deal with a scheming noble's assistant who won't give us information about a missing person. What do we do then?
Well, if that's the case, I think we're going to have to get a little dirty with our tactics. Because at level 1, alchemists can all choose to have arsenic as one of the alchemical items that they can craft. On top of that, you can also craft the antidote for said arsenic. So maybe you spike this bastard's drink or food with the arsenic, you have a meal with him, and you're like, how you feeling? Yeah, you're not feeling so great, are you? And then you're like, where's the missing person? Where's the girl, goddammit? I got the antidote right here. You want it, you tell us what we need to know right now.
You would want me to think that the arsenic is in your drink when really it's in my drink.
Wonderful. What a great way to deal with a douchebag noble assistant. But after that, you know, maybe on a chance road encounter, you come across a wagon that's been attacked, Kamo. What are you going to do? You find one person that's already dead and someone else is wounded. What's an alchemist to do?
I gotta do something quick. I jump down to see if the dwarf is all right. Maybe I do a couple medicine checks on him to see what's wrong with him. Maybe I find out that this guy's gonna die in a couple seconds, right? He doesn't have long, so I'm like, oh, I gotta use my quick alchemy and quickly make an elixir of life and just jam it down his throat. You know, pat the back of the end of the bottle like a Heinz ketchup.
Every last drop, right?
Yep.
Excellent. Your quick thinking is rewarded in this situation. This guy's like, he's going to give you 20 gold out of his pocket. He tells you in the next town over that there's actually an alchemical shop. There's an apothecary there. And he's like, tell him that Ronan Curlybeard sent you and he'll give you a deal.
The day is coming down to an end. And you notice that the wizard in your party is doing some extensive research on an ancient civilization, hoping it's going to uncover some secret that will help us in the quest. What will you do then?
As the alchemist, you could just mosey on up to him and just be like, what you looking at there, friend? I got something for you. And just spit out the cork. Cognitive mutagen.
Chug this.
Chug this. Don't do anything physical activity-wise for a minute or so, and maybe you'll have that breakthrough you're looking for.
Yeah, severe cramps if you move, yeah.
And then you just sort of slink off to bed, and you start dreaming of more alchemical delights that you can make tomorrow.
Cool. I love that day in the life of an alchemist. I want to play one. It sounds fun. Let's make some assumptions.
Yes, let's do that on YouTube. People love that.
Let's make some pros and cons of how we think this class is going to play out.
All right, so what do you think are the pros of the Alchemist class?
This class, I feel like, really shines in their adaptability, their versatility, able to handle any situation that's thrown at them with that quick alchemy ability. They're the problem solver. They're going to go into every situation. Preparation is going to be the key of playing that class. And that's where it's going to shine. I also think they're going to be the ultimate teammate. It feels like they're just going to be all the teammates' best friend. What about some of the cons, issues we might run into being an alchemist?
If you don't play the character class correctly, I feel like if you're not about that prep and you're not about that resource management game, I feel like you're going to be like, oh, I'm just kind of like a worse cleric. I'm not really great at healing you as good as the cleric is. And again, I'm not necessarily doing as much damage as the wizard is. That's not the point of this class. So I think that could come across as a con if you have the wrong expectations about how the alchemist is going to play at the table. It also is going to require you to have sort of extensive knowledge of those craftable items. You need to go over all of them. You need to kind of know them like spells.
So based on our newbie perceptions, we're going to name this class...
This is a utility/support class in Pathfinder. I think that this is going to be really intriguing and something that role players are drawn to. I think there is a ton of flavor with the Alchemist class. I also think if you're that person at the table who doesn't necessarily love the spotlight and you want to be the ultimate teammate, you want to help out other people.
You can also kind of sit back and be that sick back player.
Yep.
That doesn't need to be up front.
But you're contributing.
Yes.
Like you're making everyone else's actions around you better with your alchemical items. Support. Utility, that is what the alchemist is.
Let's rank this in terms of difficulty to play. What do we got? What do you think?
I'm going to be giving this a 5 out of 5 for difficulty, but I'm doing that in comparison to all of the other core classes that are in the rulebook. I think the alchemist has a lot of moving parts that you have to wrap your head around, but don't let that be a deterrent. If you think the class, the flavor of it sounds cool, dive in, give it a try. There's a little bit of a learning curve, but you can do it.
At first look at the Alchemist class, it seemed kind of difficult. Once you've wrapped your head around the pool of resource and what you can do and the things you can craft, it's not that hard, honestly. I would give it a 4. The key into playing this class well is knowledge of your alchemical items.
Yep.
It's great that you only start with 8. There's only 8 you got to remember, but every level it's going to be increasing pretty quickly, and you're going to be finding alchemical formulas everywhere and buying them. That list is going to grow.
We got some Game Master tips for you if you have an alchemist at your table. K-Mo, take it away.
If they're a novice, I want them to be comfortable with the formulas that they have. So I'm not going to overwhelm them at first with formulas they can find or buy. Right? I'm going to kind of let them play with what they have, let them increase with what they get in the first few levels. Then once they've got the hang of it, then I'll start tossing some formulas at them, give them some fun, great stuff. Obviously, if it's an advanced alchemist, you're going to want to give them those things right away so they can jump into some new things. But you want to make sure that your world has enough apothecary life breathed into it. You don't want the alchemist to feel alone in this world. A lot of what the alchemist can do is based off of things they buy from the shop, honestly. So make sure they have enough downtime, proper downtime to create their items and shops to buy from.
But I also think that your campaign should have things that are going to interest that player. Maybe there's diseases, maybe there's poison, maybe there are things that they can research and figure out to solve problems. Another thing I would say is when they're out adventuring, make sure that there are strange substances for them to look into. That's something that they're going to be good at. So if you're in a dungeon, there might be some weird oozy shit on the wall. Or if you're in the forest, maybe there's a lake made out of something that's not really water. Have them sort of use that old alchemy brain and try to figure things out. The other thing you could do in Pathfinder is you can use your abilities to like work. So maybe you start up like an alchemy, or your own apothecary.
Yeah.
You know, get that idea flowing for the alchemist player that like maybe you want to do a traveling caravan that sells this stuff. My last thing I would do, and I would talk to this player and make sure it's okay, is I would want to do some homebrewy. I think that in Alchemist there should be more like volatile stuff that happens. Maybe the wizard, when you're giving him cognitive potions, he's just slowly getting addicted to them. Like
if he takes too many within a day.
Sure. It's like that Simpsons episode where Mr. Burns is giving all like the baseball players like his like weird elixir thing, and then like Ken Griffey Jr.'s head gets all bloaty. So maybe like they're messing around with like the formula for their bestial mutagen. And I'm like, yeah, sure, you can be tinkering with it and trying to make it better, but you have to, when the person ingests it, they're going to make a roll. And if it goes really, really well, then they get a little bit more of a boost than they normally would. But if they get a critical failure, something terrible is going to, some sort of horrible temporary mutation might happen. I think sort of working those things in, again, you'd have to ask the player if they're cool with it. Yeah. But I think that risk-reward aspect of the Alchemist might be kind of cool to play around with. Or it could be absolute hell. We don't know. We'll find out. Final thoughts, final impressions are pretty good. I think this is a mechanically interesting class if you're someone that likes to chomp and chew on game mechanics. I think there's a lot there for you. I really love the idea of this being sort of like a resource management kind of game. I really like video games like that, and I like that in my role-playing games. I like tracking stuff.
I think it's fun to play and run, and it's very different from D&D. I think this is great for someone who wants to play something very Pathfinder-y. Thanks for watching, folks. We're the most basic liches you're going to find on YouTube. Please, if you want to see our content weekly, you can subscribe to Basic Liches. Tell the Dead for notifications for new content.
Stick with us next Friday as we'll be going into the next class in Pathfinder, the Barbarian. And if you want to see some other Pathfinder 2e content, click on this video right here.
Later, Liches!
Bye.